This is Mark Fults, author of Chattanooga Chills, and this is our show, Shadows Paranormal. And we're here today filming at the beautiful Chickamauga Battlefield, just about 30 minutes away from Chattanooga. This, of course, is a beautiful park now, but at one time, this, of course, was a huge graveyard after the main battles that happened here. But before the Civil War, there were quite a few areas here that the Native Americans considered sacred, and they would come and hunt on them, fish on them, but they would not live on the property. Now, this area and parts of Chattanooga, all the way down to Chattanooga, were at one time inhabited by the Mississippians, who built mounds and religious sites and sacred mounds and sacred villages, and at some point they disappeared, and then the local Indians that we know of took their place, and then they saw the sacred spots and used them for their own sacred spots. And this area was known to the local Indians to be haunted because of whoever used to use it. There were still beings here that were used in their ceremonies that they would see. They would see humanoid spirits that would walk through the park and walk around the perimeters. So they wouldn't live on the property. So when the white culture began to come in and wanted to take the land, there were some of the Indians that knew it was a sacred area and wanted to keep it. And then there were some that's like, we can't live on it, let's sell it to them. And it caused war between the Indians as well as the whites. And there was a Chief Dragon Canoe, who found that it was wrong for the Indians to try to sell the land to the white people or to trade it. And he said to the white people who were wanting to buy it or trade for it that you are buying a dark and bloody ground. It is cursed. And then he began war in earnest with the white culture and was one of the most wanted on Andrew Jackson's hit list. So this is where some of that area that was dark and bloody ground. And there have been known that there have been great Indian wars here before the white culture came along. The Indians also said that some of the older people that were here were pale skinned and moon-eyed, which was very unusual for that time. And they all disappeared either due to war or disease. So what we're standing on is part of the dark and bloody ground. We are now standing actually behind the beautiful Wilder Tower, which was built, I believe, in the early 1900s, like 1907, in honor of Colonel Wilder. And the thing about this building is it has several stories connected to a being that most people believe demonic. Some people believe is an elemental kind of spirit called Green Eyes. A lot of people have seen Green Eyes around here, and other things that happen that are unusual phenomena. But I have a story from the 70s, 1969. I'm an old psychic, sometimes I gotta remember. But in 1969, there was a group of friends out here partying, having a picnic, and there was a young boy named Clarence who was about 14 years old, and the tower itself was closed, and he decided to climb up the lightning rod, which there was a complete lightning rod that went up the side of the building. So he climbed up the lightning rod to the top and was up there going woohoo, making noise and hollering to his friends. And he started to go into the tower from the top. And when he was about halfway down, he heard a blood-curdling woman scream. And he looked out the window, and his friends were out here. It wasn't his friends. There wasn't anyone else around the building. So he became terrified and started to go back up the steps to get back out to climb down the lightning rod. And about the top slot up there, gun slot, on this side, he encountered in the dark a pair of greenish orange phosphorescent eyes, and he began to feel himself being pulled, and he felt himself being pulled out one of these slot windows. If you can see them, they're not very easy for a regular sized human to come through. He went through the slot window, fell, smashed his spine on the cornerstone, and fell to the ground. And he was a paraplegic for the rest of his life. I knew a lady named Brenda Cooper that dated him for several years, and after his experience, of course, he was rather vicious. He had taken on a rather vicious personality. But he was fascinated with anything with cat eyes. He would get the black-like posters with the big cat eyes on them. He had cat statues. He just became obsessed with anything with big eyes or big glowing eyes. And he died about 10 years ago. So, but to the end of his days, he would tell the story that he had encountered Green Eyes, and that's who made him come out the window. And since that time, they removed the top portion of the lightning rod so no more accidents like that would happen. Now, in the stairwell of the tower, there's a legend that a woman was raped and murdered in the stairwell, and that's why you hear a screaming woman. People do hear a screaming woman ever so often in the lock tower. And it just has an air of eeriness at night. So a lot of course, people are not allowed here at dark because it's very dangerous. But I've heard at night that if infrared pictures are taken of the tower, streaks of light can be seen coming out of the tower. So it's like a large spigot of energy, because it's made out of, did you say limestone? Which limestone, a lot of rocks that have crystal quartz or any kind of combination of stone in them, that in the stone, crystal in the composition, quartz holds frequency, so this would be kind of like a conductor, and it would collect energy and information and expels that energy at different frequencies and at different times of the year. I'm going to bring to your attention this statue with the panther on top of this beautifully carved monument. And there are a lot of legends that are associated with this panther. A lot of people believe that Green Eyes gets his eyes from the panther because people have seen the statue glow at night. There are also other legends of Green Eyes, that he gets his green eyes from the sparkling green emerald earrings that a woman gave to her soldier lover to carry with him into war. So, but this is on Snodgrass Hill. This is where the bloodiest fighting happened that I remember hearing. And on this date, in September 19th, 1863 to September 20th, over 30,000 people died within 36 hours. And this, you're not just talking people, you're talking horses, and, you know, there's very close to here a place called Bloody Pond, because the creeks, the pond, everything red blood, because there was just so much carnage. And from 30,000 people dying at in such a small period, it took over 2 months to bury all the bodies. And if you can notice, this is of course still very hot weather. The fields are overgrown. You can imagine 200 years ago, just basically trees and fighting this, fighting the heat in the outfits that were made out of wool, and just tons of people just laying everywhere. This actually, most of the bodies that were buried almost where they laid. Some of the bodies were buried in iron caskets, which they have been dug up in the recent past and still are in pretty good conditions. Most of the bodies were buried in open ditches and open graves, and it was just a horrific experience, you know, for months and months and months afterwards. And some of the hauntings that happen here, which I have seen, are lights. Because during the lull, in between fighting, local people would come out with lanterns looking for their loved ones, looking for people who were still alive, looking for survivors. So at night, you can see lantern lights, sometimes going through the fields. And there's a phenomena of lights that are in the trees, and I think those come from the more ancient natives that were here, that when this was more of a sacred place, that there were probably platforms, wooden platforms that they had, and so you see the lights of where they had those platforms, but it appears to be in the trees. And I have seen the lights in the trees drop about 20 and 15 feet to the ground. So it's an unusual phenomena.
You don't feel good? It's all in my
It's
shoulders.
because we're here. When we leave here, you'll get to feeling better.
I like getting a little anxious.
Yeah, well, you should, because we're sitting. They're staring. I mean, absolutely. When you come up on this spot, you are standing. I'm swearing to you, there are over 100, 150 men standing around us, staring at us, wondering why we're here. And every time I've ever come up here, I can feel that electrical experience. And I can feel them looking at the back of my head. And they want us gone. This is their spot. But I can feel it as well as, anything you can. I mean, I don't know how to explain it to people.
You don't have to.
You don't have to. Sheila's having the experience. Deidre, all these people here. Barman's having an experience. And Morgan.
Yeah.
Morgan's having an experience. And
back to
that nervousness. This is a place that if you came out and did not know what you were looking at, you would feel like you want to run. And it's because this is their spot and they don't want anyone coming into it. They don't understand why we're here in their space. But this is a very scary spot. Now, when I was 20 and stupid, a friend and I came and were here near dusk, and we were down that road and we saw a light up in the tree and saw it fall to the ground and start moving towards us. And I was like, I'll get to the car before you, because I didn't know what was going to happen to us. But there's just something here where it's just very off and very scary. But very unique. It's where you can have an experience here, a spiritual experience, an energy experience. And it's up from Snodgrass Hill. But I do not suggest coming here at night by yourself. Period. I want Sheila to explain to us a story she has to share.
Well, my brother was here with a scout troop, and he was down at the campfire with the younger scouts when the older scouts came rushing up, yelling for him to come follow them, because they could hear fife and drum playing in the woods. And he was pretty certain that they were pulling something on him. Yeah. But he went to the edge of the woods with them, and sure enough, he could hear somebody playing fife and drum. So he felt certain that they were going to find somebody with a CD player trying to scare the scouts. Made perfect sense. So they decided, as young boys will do, that they would split up, and one group would go around this way and the other group would go the other way around Snodgrass Hill, and then they would meet up at the head of the hill to scare the person that was scaring them. So they did that. They creeped as quietly as they possibly could, and when they all got to the top of the hill where they actually heard the music coming, all of a sudden the music stopped. And Doug said that by then their eyes had adjusted to the dark. When they first started, it was very black and they couldn't see anything. But by the time they creeped around, their eyes had adjusted, and he said there was nobody anywhere, but it sounded like hundreds of men or heavier people running in every direction in the woods. He said the sound of crunching leaves and twigs, and he said it was as if a herd of people were running in all different directions, but there was not one person anywhere in sight. So that was his actual experience not too many years ago here at Snodgrass Hill.
Snodgrass Hill.